Short, let's say, message. I first of all would like to welcome you very warmly. It is here in Brussels very warm, but not only you here in Brussels very welcome, but also all the colleagues and people who are interested worldwide. We have more than 450 people who showed interest and who have enrolled for this launching event. And as you can imagine, we are very happy and proud to start this working group, this CoARA working group on artificial intelligence and research integrity. I have no plans to make the introduction much longer. Maybe one sentence of gratitude to Francis Crowley, who is let's say the one who started the whole thing, and I think we are very grateful to him. He's very modest and not eager to take the floor, but I think we all can be very happy that he has contacted us and has started this working group. I'm happy now to give the floor to my colleague.
I can briefly introduce the agenda.
Okay, go ahead.
So first, we already had a small welcome from Chris, and then now we're going to hear from Elif. After that, we will have a short introduction to CoARA, and then we're going to go on for a 10 minutes block of ethics integrity as a pillar of excellence in research assessment. After that, we will hear from another proposed co-chair from Maria about introducing the co-draft of the CoARA ERIP work plan and the objectives, the work streams, and the deliverables. And after that, we'll go into a short moderated discussion. And afterwards, we're going to hear from Gita about advancing research evaluation within national policies on data and AI. In the second block, we're going to hear from Jose about adopting an institutional approach to research evaluation for data and AI. Then we're going to go into the second block with Matthijs and me going to talk about the ERIP proposed organizational structure. Then we're welcoming all your comments and questions to the structure. Going on to some votes that we will guide you through. Then towards announcements from Mara, and then towards the closing of the meeting. And with that, I'm happy to hand over to Elif.
Thank you. So hello everyone, ladies and gentlemen, both present in person and joining us virtually through Zoom. Welcome to the CoARA Working Group on Ethics and Research Integrity Policy in Responsible Research Assessment for Data and Artificial Intelligence launch meeting. So today marks a significant step forward in our shared mission to advance research assessment practices with a focus on data and artificial intelligence guided by the Coalition for the Advancement of Research Assessments. As we gather in the Royal Academy for Science and the Arts of Belgium and the Zoom screen we are very well accustomed to, let us reflect on the core objectives driving our collective efforts. Slide, please. So this working group is dedicated to develop ethics and research integrity guidance for research assessment involving data and AI, to promote responsible data and AI practices by advocating for responsible assessment practices that prioritize integrity, responsibility, and societal benefit, while mitigating the potential risks and harms associated with data and AI-driven research. And to foster stakeholder engagement through facilitated dialogue and collaboration among researchers, policymakers, funding agencies, and other actors to ensure diverse perspectives in the development and implementation of ethical research assessment policies. And to provide a toolkit of education resources to raise awareness and help implement best practices in research assessment for data and AI. And finally, to engage in outreach to shape policy and institutional change, and most importantly, promoting a culture of responsible data and AI research. Slide, please. Our aim is to develop methods and tools that guarantee the ethical integrity of scientific outputs in light of the increasing use of data and the influence of AI. This involves assessing digital contributions to science and knowledge within research programs and evaluation procedures, as well as creating innovative methodologies for utilizing data ecosystems and AI models in digital research environments. These deliverables will help us guiding principles as we navigate the complexities of research assessment in the digital age. However, we are also aware that we are dealing with a moving target, and that's why we should be flexible and vigilant to stay updated with the current developments in technology and have a broad perspective to embrace scientific community all over the world. Today's meeting brings together a diverse array of participants from across the globe, including academic researchers, scholars, institutions, governmental bodies, industry stakeholders, and advocacy groups. And together we represent a global coalition committed to shaping the future of research assessment, not only within Europe, but also on a worldwide scale. Our collaboration transcends borders and cultural boundaries, underpinned by a shared vision of ethical research and innovation. Throughout our discussions today, led by the esteemed discussants, we will discuss the CoARA ERIP's work plan and explore avenues for collaboration and action. That's why I urge each of you to actively participate, share your insights, and contribute to our collective work. On behalf of the organizers and facilitators, I extend my sincere gratitude to each of you for your dedication to this important cause, and Francis for bringing all of us together. And together, let us forge a path towards a future where research and innovation thrive in harmony with ethical principles and integrity. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Elif. That's a really nice introduction for us. And now we'll go to Erzsébet, who will give us an introduction to where we are really with CoARA, those whom we work for, and what CoARA expects from us. Please, Erzsébet.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me today to this at this meeting. It's really impressive to see how many are in the room and from which diverse regions. And so welcome all of you. I'm the head of program of CoARA, which means that when it comes to membership, organizational matters, CoARA Central in general, it's me and the secretariat that all of you and your organizations can contact. Without any further ado, I think we can move on the next slide. And Matisse, if you could advance my slides, I would be grateful. Next one, please. Thanks. So I assume if you are here because you all see the dissatisfaction with the current research assessment systems, right? So we see a broad consensus on what we don't want, such as the narrow focus on bibliometrics or a publication system that is unaffordable. But the real difficult question is what we want to see instead. And so this is what CoARA aims to achieve, to provide a shared direction for ourselves. And it's a difficult exercise because research assessment is a complex, very much intertwined and essentially global phenomenon. So it cannot happen change cannot happen by a single actor, by a single country, by a single continent. It cannot happen without synthesized and coordinated action. So building on progress made on big milestones and important initiatives to the same pointing to the same direction, like you can see DORA or Leiden Manifesto or the Hongkong Principles, the agreement for the reform of research assessment that you can see on the right, establishes common direction for the research assessment reform, while on the other hand, respecting organizations' autonomy. In the center of this agreement, you will find 10 core commitments and shared principles around them. And what is also important is this agreement is very much action-oriented. So organizations who sign the agreement commit to implement these core commitments within their organizations and commit to the changes within an agreed time frame. It's been published in 2022. Next one, please. And so you can see, speaking of action-orientedness, those organizations who signed the agreement and commit to implement the changes put an action plan in place. As you can see, last year we published guidelines for organizations in drafting their action plans, setting a roadmap for the research assessment within their own organizations. And for inspirations, you can browse the Zenodo collection of action plans. Next one. Thank you. So here you can see summarized like the two main ways of organizations can interact with CoARA. As I mentioned, signatories of the agreement, first of all, express public endorsement to the reform as well as to the shared directions, but probably even more importantly, they practically commit to what is in the agreement via creating their action plans. On top of it, they are also invited to join CoARA. CoARA offers a platform for collaboration and mutual learning. So if you are here because your organization is committed to CoARA already. So CoARA member organizations can join knowledge exchange platforms of CoARA and can also have their voice, have their say in co-shaping the development of strategic development of CoARA, forming the highest decision-making body of CoARA, which is the CoARA General Assembly. Next one, please. Here you can see a bit of a CoARA history. Of course, the history of research assessment reform efforts is much, much longer than that. But speaking strictly of CoARA, you can see that what we achieved, like a very abstract overview of what we achieved in the past years. And probably the most important part is where it takes to you, present day. So at around the first anniversary of CoARA, you can see that we have a coalition of more than 600 members and more than 700 signatories. We have 13 working groups who are now operational. So thanks a lot for all your efforts in that. We have 15 national chapters. CoARA is referred in important policy documents. And the CoARA Boost project that supports CoARA's operation is also up and running since last October. Next one, please. Okay, so if you wonder where are we, the growth of coalition, this slide shows you the latest membership details. What you can immediately see in terms of when you have a look at the type of organizations is that the reform is in good hands in the sense that most our members are research performing organizations, universities, research centers, academies. But the funders sector is also really important, national or international research funders. And we have these other relevant not-for-profit organization groups, for instance, open infrastructure providers whose contributions are and will be essential for the successful reform. Next one. And you can see here a CoARA membership distribution by country, but if we can move to the next slide, we can see that we can see a geographical visualization of that. Let me highlight once again that since research assessment reform is a global matter per se, CoARA aims to be a global coalition. You can see the current Europe heaviness of the member organizations, but you can also see is that by the end of the first anniversary of CoARA, we managed to attract organizations from all continents, but there is still a way to go. Next one, please. So next one. Yes. Another one, please. Can we? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So if you are here, you know what CoARA working groups are. Working groups are essential pillars for CoARA. You are bottom-up communities who are organized along topical matters, and you join forces to discuss important matters and develop outputs on which CoARA member organizations can rely on in their reform journeys. You can see here the first portfolio of CoARA working groups, 13 working groups in total. And you can also see in the middle an important forum of working group chairs, the working groups co-chairs forum, who is going to meet, who already met in November last year, and whose regular meeting will keep cohesion between the working groups. Next one, please. So in addition to the working groups, maybe it's important for you to know another knowledge sharing instrument platform within CoARA that is organized along countries. They are the national chapters who are in charge of country level implementation of CoARA. Next one. Here you can see an overview. You can also see that national chapters are currently focused in Europe indeed, but we are aware of ongoing work on national chapters outside of Europe as well. So stay tuned on that. Next one. So to finish my brief 10 minutes introduction to CoARA and current status, here is a little sneak peek for you what to expect in the coming months, I would say. So soon in the coming weeks, we are let me start with the working group relevant ones. So by the spring 2024, as you can see, all 13 working groups are becoming operational. So it's an interesting and important line of work. Stay tuned for more sibling working group updates. But just as importantly, in April, we are going to launch the CoARA Boost Cascade funding program, in which we support organizations to their institutional reform journeys. Stay tuned for that. As we promised in the last General Assembly meeting, something procedural, we are working on putting new balancing mechanisms in place that better reflect the global nature and the geographical diversity of CoARA. We are also going to further support member organizations in their design of action plans. There is a webinar that is to be announced soon on that. And you can also see more discourses, more exchanges, more webinars, and more opportunities for knowledge exchange. And I think that's it. Maybe, Matisse, if you can just briefly move to the next slide where attendees can find our contact details. So you can follow us in social media channels. Now we have Mastodon as well. And if you have any practical questions about CoARA, you can always contact us at secretariat@coara.eu. Thanks a lot for your attention and have an inspiring and productive exchange today.
Elizabeth, thank you so much. That was a really great presentation. And thank you for doing it in 10 minutes. I didn't believe you could do it with all the slides, but you did it. So thank you very much. For many people here, CoARA is new. So, and I think this was a really good introduction to CoARA. And maybe Elizabeth, some people have been asking in the chat, at least directly to me, how they might be able to join CoARA or something. So if you want to put something in the chat about that, I think that would help if you think it's appropriate. But
sure. I will keep an eye on the chat, and please feel free to ask questions, and I am going to try to answer all of them.
Yeah. And by the way, Elizabeth is the magic that makes CoARA work. So that's really good. Yeah. Okay, we are in Brussels, some of us here, and we are with Michalis, who is one of these ethics people at the European Commission. So Mihalis is going to tell us how to behave ourselves and be ethical here. So Mihalis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for thinking of us, and making us part of this meeting. I think it's quite important and valuable for us to be here, also to present what we have been doing in the domain of AI ethics for the last few years. I'll make an effort to share my presentation. I think that's it. Okay. So part of the ethics and research integrity sector. We're a team based at DG RTD at the European Commission, mostly responsible. And by that, I mean, we also have many other activities under our portfolio that we can refer to a bit later. We're mostly primarily responsible for the management of the so-called ethics appraisal process. It's a corporate process that is applied across the board, across the whole research family, at least those entities that are funded by under the Horizon Europe umbrella. So our process in terms of assessing the ethical compliance of research proposals funded at the EU level or projects implemented under the EU funding, this process is applied by all executive agencies, all joint undertakings, and we are primarily responsible for ensuring the methodological integrity of this process. This process, as you may have seen from the kind of first slide, is a multi-level process, multi-stage process that is triggered by the scientific evaluation process. Once this scientific evaluation process is completed, then we take over, and there is a pre-screening, screening, and assessment of research proposals from an ethical perspective. Throughout the last few years, a new stage has been added to the whole process, which is the ethics check. So we perform what we call audits of ongoing projects from an ethical perspective. So after a year or two, we ask the beneficiaries to submit documentation that show their ethical compliance, and we set up panels of experts, ethics experts, to review this documentation. And this is actually how we work, basically. So we are not performing this process ourselves. We are responsible for setting up panels, ad hoc panels of experts from different disciplines to review, to screen, and assess these proposals. Now, throughout the last few years, this is a technologically what we call neutral process. So we are looking at all different ethical problems across the board, meaning across all disciplines. It may be social science and humanities, it may be archaeology, it may be physics, it may be digital technologies, but throughout the last few years, AI has become a major point of concern, ethical attention, I would say. And for that reason, and there I would kind of zoom out and refer a bit to what the EU has been doing about AI and AI ethics in more concretely. EU in that field, as you may know, has adopted the so-called trustworthy approach to AI. You may find it as human-centric. You may the current let's say narrative talks about trustworthy approach to AI, which comprises and implies that there is a need to take care and to look after the ethical dimension of AI from its design to its deployment. Within that frame, the Commission has adopted the so-called ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI. These are guidelines that comprise 7 core requirements and 4 ethical principles. This was the outcome of the work of a high-level expert group that was set up back in 2017. 52 experts came together, produced the ethics guidelines, and also a very important byproduct of this process was the so-called assessment list for trustworthy artificial intelligence, the so-called ALTI list, which is basically an attempt to operationalize this high-level ethics principles. There are 7 core requirements, 4 ethical principles that came out of that constitute what we call ethics guidelines. These guidelines were later on endorsed by the European Commission. So this is for what the European Commission has in mind when it talks about trustworthy AI from an ethical perspective. When it comes to our process, artificial intelligence has been added as a self-standing ethics issue. So in case there is a proposal that comes for funding at the EU level involves any sort of machine learning or big data or AI type of, let's say, processing, then we take over the ethics process is initiated, is triggered, and we, try to see how serious, how complex this AI issue is, how serious the project is from an ethical perspective, in order to treat it accordingly. For that reason, and because we, as I said in the very beginning, we are responsible for making sure that there is an ethical oversight when it comes to AI proposals, we have issued throughout the last few years some what we call guidance documents or guidelines for in the domain of ethics, of AI ethics. And the first one is the so-called ethics by design for AI. It's an approach, it's a, let's say, a methodological way of looking at the AI projects at the design level that came out as the outcome of 3 flagship projects that we funded a few years ago. And they came up with a specific methodology. The document is public. We use it and we refer to it. It's non-binding. It's a guidance, as I said, nothing more than that. But it is quite novel, quite, I would say, innovative in the way it looks at the whole discussion on ethics and introduces principles, requirements, and some practical steps in order to apply this ethics by design approach. At the same time, and because AI as a technological domain is quite dynamic, we thought of working on more guidance documents. It's an attempt to operationalize ethics, to make it, let's say, more concrete, to spoon feed the researchers, in other words, in order for them to navigate through this kind of moral maze of AI ethics that includes issues such as bias, privacy, human oversight, the environmental dimension that I may, if there is time, I can refer to it a bit later. So for all these issues, we thought of setting up expert groups. We have brought together experts to work on different aspects of AI ethics. So there is one guidance note that is going to come on algorithmic bias, another one on informed consent in the world of AI, another one, it's a methodology for how to perform ethics audits and checks on AI projects, and the fourth one, which started a month ago, on the so-called human rights impact assessment, which seems to, is going to be, we'll see the text in a couple of weeks when the AI Act is going to be finalized. This is one of the most important, let's say, novelties of this piece of legislation. So it's going to be introducing the so-called human rights impact assessment for high-risk applications of AI. So we want to issue a guidance and to somehow prepare the research community for what is coming and for them to know what they have to do and how they are going to reflect in that sense. This is for us and that I thought of adding that slide because I think it's important to mention that. For us, our work is primarily the way we look at our work is primarily a co-creation process. We don't want to impose things. We are not here. We are not operating in that ecosystem in order to police, to enforce, or to punish researchers. We're here to guide them, and that is why for us co-shaping is a very important word. So we are in constant dialogue with learned societies, with academic communities, with universities, in order to test the waters when it comes to these guidelines. We are treating all these actors as partners, equal partners to our efforts. And that is why we participate to all parallel discussions that are taking place on AI ethics that come from the academic world, and that's why we're also part of this particular effort. So we are relying on your, let's say, ideas, on your suggestions, on your recommendations, which leads me to the discussion on reform assessment. And that is for us a very important, let's say, step in our efforts to link ethics to the so-called research assessment process. And we have some ideas on that, but and that is a discussion that is also an internal discussion within the Commission in terms of how to reward researchers when they are doing good work in the field of ethics, and how to even certify certain training programs in order to make them, let's say, points of reference for the research community and for the researchers themselves, and for either the ethics evaluators that work with us to be trained and, let's say, awarded and also certified accordingly in a more official way. Last but not least, our efforts are only a part, probably significant part, of what is going on at the international level. So at the same time, we're working on ways, you know, through the AI Act, through the different guidelines, operational guidelines that we are trying to issue. There are so many other organizations in the same, let's say, domain, in the research domain, or in the technological domain, that are trying also to put their to leave their footprint on the AI ethics world. And by that I mean the work of UNESCO on the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence, a very important normative document that came out a couple of years ago. And this is the only, let's say, international piece of reference when it comes to the ethics of artificial intelligence. We have the AI principles that came out of OECD. The Council of Europe is currently negotiating the so-called framework convention on artificial intelligence, that because of the nature and the focus of the Council of Europe, it has a special focus on human rights, which, of course, as you may understand, overlaps with our work in the field of ethics. And there are other organizations that are working with children or with on health projects that are also trying to issue documents and to kind of provide guidelines to on the ethics side. I'll stop here. Before, however, stopping, I only want to say one more word. Beyond our activities in the ethics appraisal mechanism and our efforts to streamline this mechanism and to make sure that researchers are well guided in let's say, following and becoming part of this ethics appraisal process, we're also funding projects in that area. And recently we launched a couple of projects that are of particular importance, not necessarily to AI ethics as such, but are closely related to the discussion and the ongoing work in the field of ethics in general. So there is one project that deals with green ethics, the environmental dimension of ethics, and there is a link to the environmental footprint of AI, which rather, I would say, under-researched issue. And for us, we treat it, and we're going to treat it as an ethics issue. And there is another project, other project, which is going to focus on the future of ethics review, on how to somehow revamp these structures in light of this, let's say, disruptive technological trends. I'll stop here and I'll open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mihalis. I think you scared us. So it's a really complex world that we're stepping into, including the world here in Brussels with the Commission, and everything you're doing is amazing. I don't know how we'll keep up. I think we'll go over the Peel now. Peel is sort of the engine that has been making things work for our working group in the background, and she's going to go through the work plan with you. And then I think, Mihalis, we can see, are we connecting with what the expectations are or not? Yeah. Please, Peel.
Thank you. My name is Peel. I come from the European Council for Doctoral Candidates and Junior Researchers. So I represent PhD candidates, postdocs, and other junior researchers across Europe. Thank you for the very kind words, Francis. I will try to see if I can live up to them. What I will be presenting today is the objectives of the proposed objectives of the working group. We have three, as it looks now. We call those the main and the starting objectives. The first objective is to inform about our activities, to Indian an outreach program. The second one is to develop policies that ensures that ethics and integrity, the ethics and integrity of research and research assessment in the light of AI. And the third one is to develop toolkits for implementation of best practices, also in the light of AI. And they are directly coupled to the work streams we are proposing. We are proposing one work stream for each of these three objectives. So work stream 1 deals with the outreach program. And here the aim is to foster stakeholder engagement through facilitated dialogues. And the starting point will be the development of a ERIP handbook. And I would recommend you all to take a closer look at our draft for work plan if you wish to see the outline for it. I will not go through it today, also because it becomes probably an overload of information. And also on building on that, then to develop later on a series of webinars and other forms of stakeholder engagement. Next slide, please. And work stream 2 aims at developing policies, methods, and tools to ensure research ethics and integrity of the scientific methods and outputs with the advancing use of data and application of AI methods. And in the spring, what will happen in this work stream is that it will develop its detailed planning, its detailed objectives, and then it will kickstart after summer in August. That's similar for work stream 3. Please, next slide. Next slide, yeah. That aims to develop a comprehensive toolkit for the implementation of best practices of research assessment for data and AI. As with workstream 2, the planning takes place in the spring, and the detailed the kickstart of the hard work takes place in August. And as you can probably hear, I am not in a room that is suitable for taking a meeting like this. I apologize. Next slide, please. In generally, we are very, very open for other suggestions of work streams, main objectives. We also already have some suggestions and may already at the next working group meeting in April be presenting an extra work stream. In generally, we also encourage all of you, if you wish to use the same, wish to propose work stream, please use the same template as for the other work streams, meaning that there should be an objective. You should have some facilitators for it, and you should specify if it builds on some of the other work streams, and you should specify the deliverables for the work stream and the timeline, but also specify why it doesn't fit into one of the current work streams, simply to avoid that we get an unmanageable amount of work streams going on. We have planned for having some time for discussion, and I think rather than going further into some of the details, I will stop here and leave the time for the discussions instead. Does that sound reasonable, Francis?
Bill, thank you very much. And congratulations. It's really difficult to do that when you have so much noise around you, but you did a great job, and the noise did not disturb us. I think it's more disturbing for you. So very good. But Bill is the one who put together the work plan. The work plan you have and a link there too. I think what's important is that we try to discuss, really just take a few minutes anyway. We don't have a lot of time. We have a lot of people, not a lot of time, but try to discuss what people think that's of interest and of importance for this small working group to tackle in 2 years. What can we do that will make a contribution to research assessment, particularly in the areas of data and AI, and with a special eye towards integrity? And I think integrity is a good link here, research ethics, research integrity, because it links us not only, let's say, with ethics per se in and of itself, but also with science because science, is particularly in data and AI, we're very concerned with the integrity of the data itself, not necessarily the people that are using the data or people generating the data, but also the data itself. So there's a very close link here between the ethics and the science. And what we want to know is, how can we make a contribution? Now, as Peel points out, especially in the document here, there's 3 areas where we think we can work. One is with regard to, let's say, the impact of data and AI just on the research process itself, and how we look at that from an ethical point of view. And then, and also because this really does concern education too, how do teachers, how do professors, how do instructors deal with students now who are like me and who will do everything on ChatGPT or Copilot or wherever they can? So how are we going to deal with that? But not just the students, also the researchers, also the ones that are sending to Mihalis and to Dorian and to Lisa, who's online here, their proposals to do research, very nicely written by ChatGPT. So how do we deal with that? And then that takes us really into, how do we evaluate the contributions that are made by people who work in data and work in, and a lot will be working now, in AI. And there are no impact factors for that. We have a clean slate. So that might be a good thing in a way, but we have a clean slate there. And then a third area that we have to look at, and this really, the steering board from CoARA actually asked us that when they evaluated our project, was what about the use of data and AI tools to do evaluations, which we know will happen. So how are we going to deal with this? So we have those 3 areas to look at there. And I know Cyrus is looking at the chat. So Cyrus, if you see something that pops up, or if somebody wants to speak from in the audience, either here or online, then we would welcome that. And we have already one volunteer, which is wonderful. Please.
Yeah.
And please introduce yourself too.
Yeah, sure. I'm Gabi Lombardo. I'm the director of European Alliance of Social Science Humanities and the chair of the Evaluating Social Science Humanities in a Global Perspective. So we're one of the working groups lay out there. Actually, what I wanted to say is that as you were referring to education and generative AI, as per today or tomorrow, I'm not sure what the date is, but will be issued by the European Commission the guidelines on the generative AI, to which we actually contribute on setting up. They have not been published yet, but we've been working for the last 3-4 months, I think, to produce a document. Frankly, is not anything, if you can imagine, it's not rocket science, is based on a series of guidelines on artificial intelligence and ethics and integrity, particularly that we already know, so it's not reinventing the wheel, but pretty much stating in a context where generative AI was not included in this code of conduct, is included in a bit more straightforward way. The work was coordinated by the unit of Peter Droll, and it's going to be, as I said, it's going to be published either today or tomorrow. So just watch out for this extra document.
Fantastic, thank you. And we have Vivian as well here from the International Science Council. Please, Vivian.
Yes. Hello, Vivi Stavru from International Science Council, Senior Science Officer, and I manage the Committee for Freedom and Responsibility in Science. And now, forgive me if this is a matter that's already sorted, so to speak, but I was just thinking in terms of transdisciplinary research and assessment, both of calls and the final assessment of research projects around the whole issue of data provenance and sovereignty when working with different stakeholders and stakeholders from outside of the traditional research communities, and how, thoughts if that in terms of ethics, inclusion in your framework. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good. And I think this is important. We have to do a kind of a landscaping too. This is a responsibility we have. We have new guidance coming from Europe here. We have guidance all over the world out there. We need to do a kind of a landscaping. We also need to see which of the organizations are involved and how they're doing it. So this is something that we'll begin with here. We have 3 people online. We have Leo, Jonathan, and Safith. And Leo, thank you very much. You've been active in the chat, so we're looking forward to hearing from you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm actually calling from the Brussels Congress Center, which is only a kilometer away from where you are, but I'm giving a talk at 2:30, so I won't be able to go there. But it's a question that keeps coming up now, maybe more frequently. And these are around the issues of decoloniality and decolonization of research in general. And I was wondering whether, as a group, CoARA has explicitly addressed these concerns, because most of the time we don't acknowledge that working groups, the members are coming from positions of privilege. And for that reason, we have a lot of blind spots. We don't really see the magnitude of the project, of the problem. And yes, we sometimes talk to the people on the ground, but they're never part of our table. They're never part of the working group. And I wonder how we can change our ways, because AI is bound to expose and really augment all the cracks that we have in legacy systems. We've been seeing a lot of posts about the peer review, like AI making its way to papers, and no one actually saw it, not one of the reviewers or the editors. And again, that is an indictment of the peer review. And we're going to see this also with research. All the problems of research will be magnified by AI unless we preemptively prevent them from happening. So I wonder if there have been discussions around these problems.
Yeah, really good questions and also good points you make, Leo. I'm going to leave your question hanging, though, because I think we'll address it as we go further today, but also as we go into the working group, we do have to address it. And I want to take more time. So Jonathan, please.
Good morning. I'm with NumFocus. And I just wanted to double click on something you said, Francis, which is answering your question of what we could do in 2 years very practically. I think a landscaping analysis would be very effective. What organizations are doing what? Are they successful? How are they successful? And things like that. There's a lot we could map with a landscape analysis. I think would be very practical.
Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you also, because Jonathan has been working in the background also with some others who are really doing some really technical stuff that are going to help us out too as we go forward. So thank you for that comment. And Safi, excuse me.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak as well. So my name is Dr. Safiya Shah, and I'm from Pakistan. My affiliation is with ICTOR, the Institute for Globally Distributed Open Research and Education. So the main thing I wanted to discuss with regards to what was brought up is that although I do feel it's important to see how AI has an impact with regards to practices of students and all that, but more than the what and the description of what's happening, I think it's important to understand the why. Again, it's not a either or, I think it's an and option, but I do think why that's happening is important. There's a lot of pressure on students to publish, and there's this principle of publish and perish. There's this that institutions have, that if you don't publish within a year or so, you will be redundant and therefore no longer relevant in your field. So maybe that pressure, that thing is what is compounding the fact that students and young researchers feel the need to keep publishing for the sake of publishing, and therefore the use of AI helps them with regards to just how much time they have, because being an academic, as we know, is a lot time consuming in a lot of ways. And so then being an academic, as well as, for example, being a healthcare professional, means double the amount of work in every possible way, not just practically and clinically, but also administratively. So, these are practical considerations, I think, that we can look into as to the why, rather than just the what, to get an idea of what it is that is leading people to use AI for, and how can they be better served and equipped so that when they use AI, it's not compromising their critical thinking or the ability to learn how to think critically as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharif. And I see you have a lot of agreement in the chat. And I also think this is what Peel had in mind when she was talking about the work streams and how we have to form those work streams together. So how we have to try to put people together to do this. I'll ask Professor Elif to say something, and then Professor Marenica, I'll ask to say something, and then Cyrus as well, please.
Thank you, Francis. I'm just taking from where Safia left it. I believe that this working group has three main areas of work. The first one is the descriptive one, that we are trying to address what's happening and why is it happening, and then we are going to the consequences of what happening is, how the impact of that on research and also training and education and so on and so forth. But I think we're not limited to that. We have to have a normative part as well, and we can see that in our work streams as well. We have to be able to say something to, just guide people from a normative approach. And when I was saying that we're working with a moving target, I was just talking about this because normative approaches are usually not enough or sufficient or not fast enough to catch up with the technology, and how it can be used by young generation or ambitious academicians. Even if we understand, comprehend what's going on, it's in use and we are not aware of what's going on. So normative part is the hardest one, but I believe we have to work on that as well and provide guidance. And also, I think normative part is very much linked to practical part, because as we have seen in the presentations, there are lots of guidelines or normative approaches to AI in research or science, integrity of science. But the guidance, they're important, but real life comes with ethical dilemmas. So we are not asking if this is wrong or right, but we are asking, what are we going to do when both things look some kind of not right, but we have to choose one of them, and we have to, prioritize our principles and values and scientific integrity instead of our practical, needs, let me say. So the descriptive and landscaping and descriptive part is important, and that's a huge chunk of our work in this group. But we have to also focus on normative part and practical tools for real life struggles.
Yeah, thanks so much, Elif, and people can see where the brains are who put this together right now. So I also want to, so Marenica, I'd like to hear from you, and then I'd also like to hear from Catriona, and because you made yourselves present in the chat, and Dave Lewis, and then Nana from Sydney. So Marenica, would you like to say something, please?
Yes, very briefly. I think I've written a number of things on the chat. Just to take off from Elif and other people that have spoken, I think one of the critical things where we can do and indeed find a way, make ourselves different, is the downstreaming of whatever decisions we reach, whatever are the guidelines. There are many people in the field, and there are many people we can collaborate with, but consistently what you've seen with ethical norms and guidelines or whatever it is that is developed is that the people on the field are often left behind. The researchers, the people that need to look at it. I think the brilliance of this group is the fact that there will be national hubs. So we must strategize whatever the decisions reached at the top to reach the bottom, people that the guidelines otherwise will impact in a way, using that those ops effectively, even if it means we're going to also work with the ops to ensure the mapping, to know what gaps there are in the field and where we want to properly position ourselves. But just once again, to acknowledge that there are many people working in the field, and we need to situate ourselves in a way that we don't become redundant sooner than later. And this 2 years will be very strategic in finding our position within that niche. Thank you very much, Over.
Yeah, thank you, Marenica. And I think that word, well, you said downstreaming, but you also said impact. And that is something that Mihalis and his team were talking about with us earlier as well. So that's, I think, really important. Yeah, Catriona, did you?
I can certainly chip in. I don't know how many other publishers are represented here.
Fantastic.
But the perspective, because understandably, because of the polarization in the landscape, the publishers have essentially been left out of the sort of CoARA type initiative. I do think they have a hugely important role if they can essentially, we can be brought constructively to the table to discuss the issues. Now, I'm really here to learn from all of you because I don't know enough about it. I have been at the forefront of investigating fraud at scale at Hindawi in particular. And I am concerned, there was one of the points that have just been raised was about the colonization of this type of approach. And in some ways, the impact of scientific colonialism over hundreds of years that has created an imbalance through the publish and perish model. That means there isn't the infrastructure or the training for researchers or editors or reviewers or authors. And so I'm going to stop there because I just don't know enough about this area, but I want to put in a plead for publishers to be constructive. And I appreciate that can be quite difficult, but I think given what's seen as a sort of attack on the industry through the sort of unethical use of AI and other practices, there is probably a greater willingness now for that collaboration if others are willing.
Thank you, Catriona, and I really appreciate your discussion here. I think one of the things that we're looking at today is how to construct that dialogue. And that's a dialogue that we have to construct with the CoARA Secretariat and the steering board of CoARA. And I think that's a process that we're involved with right now. So thank you very much for your comment, and we'll look to do better with it too. Dave, please.
Thanks, yes. Just a couple of points. I think on the one hand, I agree fully about the landscaping effort. I think generally in our work plan, we need to be very sensitive to the speed at which things are moving forward. So planning to spend a number of months, then releasing a report, and then doing a study after another few months. You know, we may need to examine that and say, well, perhaps we need to have more of an ongoing information feed, because I think we could find work we're doing, being superseded very quickly. But I think the breadth of the membership here means there's a very strong ability to be a good dissemination of best practice, to be a hub for that. That's one topic. I think the other thing we do need to really think carefully about, and I haven't seen mentioned yet, is looking at the, if you like, sort of the open access license terms that that are involved both in publishing, open access to data, because that really determines the the way in which this sort of the use of AI in science and in supporting publication and reviews is going to progress. It's extremely opaque, well, not opaque, but it's contested at the moment. Obviously, there's court cases around copyright and fair use at the moment. But I think bringing in more sort of legal viewpoints, I think would be very useful there, because I think an issue is at the moment we don't necessarily see the reciprocation around making knowledge available open access occurring when the mediation is through a very large generative AI. So it gets sucked in, but then you have to subscribe to get the benefit of it. And I think at the moment we don't have a lot of control over that. We may see a lot of our good open access intentions being used without reciprocation of the benefits of AI there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. It's great. I was at a launch meeting yesterday for the European Commission project on developing a vaccine. And that's a huge question. What do we do with the data and how do we do it? It's not easy. So I'm going to ask Nana to say something very briefly. Marcos and Maura, and Jonathan, I'm going to ask you to throw that in the chat if you could, and then we're going to move on, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Francis. It's actually a wonderful effort. And I see on one hand, there is a systemic problem that has been pervading the whole world or the whole research sector, and that one needs to actually delve deeper into. But any solution, as you have all been working towards, is also need to be built into the research infrastructure itself. That whether it's as a guidelines and so on, but it cannot just be a document that people just have an option to look at, but somehow it needs to be embedded into the whole infrastructure. But I think the direction this committee is going is actually very encouraging, and thank you for that leadership.
Thank you, Nora. And there's nobody I know who publishes more than Marcos, and publishes very good quality things too. Okay, Marcos, are you able to connect? No. Okay, Maura, did you want to say something?
No, arguments are correct, but sometimes they are not.
I am talking particularly to you. If you want to pay us.
Sorry about that. Maura, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, do you mean me, Francis?
Yes, we can hear you well. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't actually have my hand up. But I mean, I think it's very interesting. This whole discussion is just fascinating, because when we were reviewing the European Code of Conduct last year, we were scratching our heads about what to say about AI. You know, I mean, how could this be? How could you present it in a code of conduct for research integrity when it is, as somebody said, a moving target? And I think, I mean, all we could really come up with, which probably isn't that useful, is that if people need to be transparent about their use of AI. I mean, I think the difficulty is where people aren't transparent and try to pass it off. And there was a few nice examples in the chat there. I mean, I would see AI as a tool, a very powerful tool, but a tool nonetheless. And if you use it in your work, it should become part of the methodology section of your work, describing how you used it, how you did your analysis, etc. And I think that would at least allow people to understand what approach you took to AI. So I mean, that's just a small comment.
Thank you, Maura. I put you on the spot too, but it's a really good comment too. Gian, you're the last one, and then we're going to move on the agenda. Gian, are you able to unmute? Gian Gao.
Okay, hello everyone. My mission this time is learning, listening, but I think because I attend the written team standards of data ethics, maybe especially one of the standard is privacy service classification, and we proposed some choice proposals of informed consent choice. I think maybe it will provide some idea to data used in AI. And I think I am a Chinese person, and also come from medical ethics. I think we can attend some work of AI, and if there needs some the collaboration of the suggestions around the channel, I can do some work for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gian. That's very nice too. Good. We will go now to from China. We'll go to India, and Jita will introduce us to some thoughts from what they're doing with AI on a national level in
Thank you, Francis.
Yes, we hear you very well, please. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Hello,
Thank you.
world. I'm Geeta Yadav. I'm a data scientist in India. I use AI over natural language processing, as well as AI over genomics at the National Institute of Plant Genome Research, an organization of the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Government of India. We are based in New Delhi. I'm also the founder of Semantic Climate. It's a global citizen science movement where our primary objective is to create AI youth champions all over the Indian subcontinent, particularly to overcome knowledge neocolonization, which was being discussed just a few minutes ago on this panel. My intention just now is to speak about advancing research evaluation within the national policies on data and AI. There's a growing societal perception, you can read the chat box right now, about the negative impact of advancing AI and ML tech in the innovation ecosystem for research, for education. And at the heart of advancing research evaluation lies the need for robust methodologies capable of assessing, as somebody said just now, the quality, the impact, the ethical implications of all the AI research that we do, the kind of data and sampling that we perform, traditional metrics that we have used forever in evaluations, journal impact factors, citations. All of these are falling short in capturing the multifaceted nature of research outputs in our current fields today. And so anticipating and mitigating these perceptions can only be accomplished by people who do the work, the researchers themselves. And this too was mentioned just now, I think, by Dave. I wish to comment on the importance of advancing research evaluation within our respective policies by focusing on the global south. Of course, I bring in specifically information and notes from my country, India. We recently had a huge AI and ethics meeting last month in person in New Delhi. It resulted in a practice paper for institutional interventions all over the subcontinent. So now with partners in India, we are building national policies to orchestrate this evaluation process, offering frameworks that can balance somehow the societal needs as well as the ethical considerations, while not becoming an obstacle for advancing AI tech. For example, let me just tell you from my own research in the area of genetics and genomics, several government, academic, corporate, and R&D organizations in India have now started to implement governance mechanisms that require researchers like myself to directly confront the risks related to our work. We have ethics review processes. We have integrated peer reviews and grant applications and publications, primarily facilitating a reflection on the potential risks and effects that our research while being conducted might have. Now, this is very different from responsibilities that we've been traditionally undertaking, such as the protection and the welfare of the human participants in biodiversity hotspots of India, tribe populations. We have governing bodies within India, such as the institutional and ministerial review boards that have been already doing it. So therefore, to end my short speech, I would like to say that the national policies that we are building in India right now for evaluation and research evaluation of AI tech are focused on promoting transparency and open access to algorithms. And I think globally, this is something that is already being, understood and understood as important for facilitating reproducibility and scrutiny of research findings. So we have to establish standards for data management, for code sharing, for distributed data visitation. That's what we were discussing at Leiden University in January. And algorithmic transparency, fairness in the sense of FAIR for fully AI-ready data that we have, thereby hoping to foster, a culture of collaboration within the AI research community. Did that make sense to anyone? I hope it did. Thank you very much, Francis, for bringing me and India into the picture today.
No, thank you, Ishita. And it's really good to have a real scientist here who's applying this in the area of genomics as well, but also working across the international level as well on these topics too. It's really helpful. And Jita, I think we should go over to Kiedozi, who is in Nigeria, and he will take us really from the national level to how he's thinking about this at an institutional level. So Chiadozi, please.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you, everyone. I'm Chiadozi. I work for two institutions in Nigeria, the Ambrose Ali University and ERA Specialist Teaching Hospital, where I pioneer research integrity programs. So I begin by telling us that institutions have always played a critical role in shaping science, education, medicine, culture, religion, and politics. And these they do through policies backed up by data-driven evidence, which is now being supported or may be complicated by artificial intelligence. These institutions, in their normative, historical, or rational approaches, using organizations have for centuries shaped the way we approach research, the values and norms that guide assessment or evaluation of empirical data and the translation of such outputs into real-world practice. So by adopting this institutional approach, we acknowledge that historically, no significant change in the way we live happened by a single individual working in isolation. We'll agree that the same social approach will be necessary to shape the future we'll all yearn for. The future is now. ERIP acknowledges, therefore, that this quest can only be achieved through the global scientific community. Really, no one can do this and succeed except we work as a team, and the time has come, and that's why we are here today. So while we adopt this institutional approach, we note that keeping in mind the main goal of CoARA, as has been highlighted in previous presentations and discussions, member institutions, and I mean member institutions involving publishers, journal editors, research institutions, are free to implement this agreement in their context and run at their own pace. Next slide. However, ERIP as an institution, now that we adopt or seem to adopt the approach under an umbrella institution, CoARA, each of us, by extension, whether we live in Africa, Europe, Asia, Middle East, or Australia, agree to commit to the reform through ERIP and working to achieve the overarching goal within this time frame we have been given. We've been given 2 years. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. Next slide. To successfully adopt this institutional approach, top-down or upstream or downstream, we have to keep in mind the way institutions run. We see that institutions run with policies. We agree that by guided norms, policies, values, and governing structures set by CoARA ERIP, if these structures and uniqueness in institutionalism have helped to bring about development in science and education, the same approach should work for us. And I believe you agree with me. The same approach should work for ERIP, and the same approach should work for your institution. We share our unique experiences when we come, and we use this rich information available to us, like some of us have asked or even suggested, to reform, enhance, improve the quality of data and AI evaluation across all institutions, not just in Europe, like my institution in Nigeria, in Africa, and other institutions across the globe. Next slide. Next slide, please. So taking this approach in 2 ways, we are going to take this approach of institutionalism in 2 ways. One, as actors at our own local institutions. I heard some of the comments at the local institutions, and then as actors representing institutions in ERIP, CoARA. First, we need to adopt a project management or community participation approach to planning how we're going to do this. We need to map stakeholders, and like we said, we analyze the opinion of stakeholders. We engage, formulate policies, create awareness, implement the policies, which we will monitor and evaluate for effectiveness. Second, we take the approach from ERIP and do the same as CoARA institutions, where we share our local and international experiences to better understand how we fare in the working group in the pursuit of this broad objective. Now, so from local to global institutions, we adopt this approach fully. I know you agree with me. At my institution in Ambrose Ali University, Obafemi Awolowo University, and other institutions in Nigeria and Africa, no one is left out. Low and middle income countries, high and middle income countries, severely depressed economies. We are not leaving anyone behind. So at my institutions and all your institutions, we want to see the results of a time-tested approach. In the institutional approach you are going to adopt in reforming the way data and AI is being assessed. Tomorrow's world of science and education is looking better and more promising as all committed institutions partner with CoARA ERIP, using the same approach that we have suggested now that has worked at local institutions to achieve our collective. So as a big umbrella institution in working under CoARA, we work towards a common goal, being coordinated by ERIP, as you have seen on the slide. Join work streams based on your unique experience and interests and what works better for you at your local institutions. Now, taking the same work plan and running with it within the same time frame. We have all known that we have been given something like 2 years. So as I end this presentation, we continue to share experiences. A tree cannot build a forest. So we're going to get our experiences, share, continue to share experiences, feedbacks, including your frustrations, because truly that's going to be
Okay, I think we will really have to thank Kiyodozi for an excellent presentation. Kiyodozi, go ahead, please. We lost you for a moment there. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please. We lost you just a bit at the end after sharing.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. So, as a big umbrella institutions in one institution, big institution, we are using the same institutional approach that you use at your institution that have been working as ERIP. So we work towards a common goal, and that's CoARA ERIP goal, being coordinated by ERIP. We are going to join work streams based on your unique experience and interests and what works better for you at your own institution, in your own country or continent. Remember, I said no continent is left out. This is global, and we can't do this alone. No person, no working group can achieve this alone in just a short space of time. So taking the same work plan and running with it, you are going to run with it, and I'm going to run with it in my country, in my institutions, within the same time frame. What we're going to do is that we continue to commit to sharing perspectives, sharing feedbacks, including your frustrations. And then I said, in closing, as actors of this big institution, this social approach, we need to commit to sharing perspectives and continue to do it within this time frame of 2 years. And this is what we're going to do as we're doing now already as we launch this, till we'll arrive, until we see reformed assessment of data and AI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kiyodozi. That's really, really good. And I think what's really important is you stress the institutional approach. And this is something that we have to be very much aware of too, as a working group. To a certain extent, we're individuals working together, but it's the institutions, and it's only the institutions that can implement and make these kinds of changes. So we need to have these institutional links as well, and also that perspective that you gave us on the institutions. So with Jita, we've gone from the national level, Kiyodozi, into the institutional level, and now we're going to go down into the micro, less significant level, but of the organization really of ERIP, of our working group within CoARA, and Cyrus and Matthijs are going to take us through that. Please.
Yes, thank you so much, Francis, for this kind introduction. I will do my very best to guide you through the first half of our organizational structure. And then afterwards, we're going to have Matthijs leading us through the second half of our organizational structure. So my name is Cyrus Walter, and I'm coming from the ISC CoData Executive Committee, where I'm responsible for early career researching, and also from the International Union of Pure and Applied Physics. So moving through the membership, moving through the organizational structure of ERIP, the first and most important point is our membership. So the membership really is composed of an interdisciplinary group and a diverse group of experts, knowledgeable experts from around the world. These experts are composed of two groups. One, generally called experts, are such from CoARA members, so representatives from CoARA members, and they are so-called associated experts who are representing not yet CoARA member organizations. The membership is, of course, the body that really shapes the objectives, the research, the work streams that CoARA ERIP is really going to work on in the detail. And of course, they're also going to be our communication and a representation as ERIP to the inside and also to the outside of the community. So that really forms the essential core part of ERIP itself. And also, we're welcoming multiple researchers and representatives from one organizational body, but it still limits to one specific vote in voting procedures. The second part here is the coordinator. The coordinator provides the secretary structure between the co-chairs, the membership, and all the other bodies that are in the ERIP group. Also, it connects directly the working group to the CoARA steering committee and provides the strong link between the main CoARA coordination and us. Also, it helps us assisting in the day-to-day process as the co-chairs with the proposal and the day-to-day operations of the working group. The third part of the proposed organizational structure are the co-chairs. The co-chairs consist of nominated or self-nominated people coming from the proposing organizations and supporting organizations that have proposed the ERIP working group in the first place, but also such people that feel themselves encouraged to apply for the position of co-chairs from other bodies that are interested in supporting the working group. So also other member organizations or not yet to be member organizations. The co-chairs ensure the implementation of the work plan. They ensure the direct working with the work streams, and they also oversight the advancement and the progress towards the deliverables that we have already presented that we want to work on and that we want to work to. Also, together with the coordinator, the co-chairs organize ERIP internal and also external events and happenings. That also includes the representation of ERIP to other outside structures and organizations. The fourth part here is the advisory committee or the stakeholder committee. This is the committee of the 16 representing and supporting organizations that have proposed ERIP. From those, there's one representative that we ask for and that we encourage to have in this stakeholder committee, and they are asked to give input to the working group on a 6-month basis and guide and lead us to such blind spots where we have not yet worked on and that are crucial for the deliverables to work out in the end and be as most successful as possible. And with that, I'm happy to hand over to Matthias for the second part.
Good, thank you for that, Cyrus. I will continue with a couple of the practicalities. So first of all, about our meetings that we are going to organize, in order to get this big community together, we will organize one monthly meeting, and this is going to take place on every third Thursday of the month. The exact details of this will follow still on the last slides of this meeting. But it's important to know that these monthly meetings will not be work meetings. Again, considering the size of the group and the many topics that we'll be working on, this will be more community building and updating meeting, and the actual work of ERIP is going to be carried out in work streams, as described by Bill earlier. And these work streams will be kicked off separately by the proposed co-chairs of the ERIP working group. So for the monthly meetings, any members may suggest speakers or items for the discussion, and these monthly meetings will typically take 1 hour as a formal meeting, but can be expanded for longer informal discussion if desired. Then the last part on this slide is on CoARA Boost. So as already alluded to by Erzsébet, the CoARA consortium is supported by a Horizon-funded grants, and this project is called CoARA Boost, and this is intended to support the implementation of the CoARA objectives in several ways. So the consortium of organizations that takes part in CoARA Boost consists of funding organizations, universities, academies, researchers, so a couple of networks of which the names will probably be familiar to you. To be more concrete, a couple of things that the CoARA Boost project is doing is, first of all, it's supporting the cascade funding described by Erzsébet to promote local initiatives to advance research assessment. We provide practical, logistical, and organizational support to these working groups, And we organize events to expand the CoARA membership and create links to other projects and organizations that are working on research assessments. What's especially probably interesting for the working groups is that we also organize a co-chair forum where we bring together all the chairs of the different working groups and where we explore synergies between the working groups and possibilities for collaboration. So I'm Matthijs Vleugel. I'm a scientific policy officer at ALEA, which is the European Federation of Academies of Sciences and Humanities. And at ALEA, I'm overseeing our work on open science, our activities on research assessment, and also on research integrity. As alluded to by Maura Heine already, we recently published the European Code of Conduct for Research Integrity in this context. Besides supporting the working group ERIP, I'm also supporting the CoARA working groups on peer review and open infrastructures. So if you have questions on these working groups, please also feel free to contact me. From the CoARA Boost project, I'm supporting the working group with approximately 1 person month per year. And we also have some financial support to organize the activities or any travel for a meeting that we might have. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Also for direct links with the other working groups, for links to the CoARA board and secretariat, feel free to get in touch. And I would now hand over to Francis again for the next steps, I think.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matthijs. I think we have some time for questions. Is that correct? No? Yeah. So what we tried to do was first to present our work plan to you, and that's really Peel did. And then also we saw that with Jita and also with Chifunde, Chiodozi, excuse me. And then what we just presented now briefly, but I think it's what our plan is to how to organize this work and how to get this work structured. And we'd really like to have some input on this because it's going to be a big challenge. We need to have your input on the work stream, so that's on the plan itself, but then also how we go about doing it. And so as Matthijs has presented, we thought we'd have a monthly meeting every third Thursday of the month. 1 month in the morning hours in Brussels and 1 month in the afternoon hours in Brussels because we are a global community here. But we thought that we would try to get the work done within the work streams and to have work stream leads by the expertise that we have. And we have a lot of expertise, I think. So we want to benefit from that and work that way. So we'd like to hear your thoughts on that, please.
I think it's a great approach. I'd love to get started on the landscape analysis or whatever that project turns into. I'm addicted to doing stuff, so I would like to just start doing stuff right now.
Good. We have 1 volunteer. So so far we have Cyrus and Jonathan. That's a very good team. But other thoughts, though, just say what you're interested in, what you think is important, what you think you would like to work on. Please, Safit, yeah, please.
Yeah, I was wondering also about like whether there's been a critical analysis and overview of the other organizations or bodies that have come together globally with guidelines on this as well, just to get an idea of what's been covered, what's working for others that isn't working, so that there is, even with the landscape analysis, so we're not doing something which has probably already been covered and our resources are being protected that way moving forward.
Yeah, thank you. I think, firstly, a great benefit that we have is that we're part of CoARA. So that's already going to help us to understand what's going on out there. We have other really great institutions surrounding us, both here in Brussels, but also in Europe more broadly. And now you can see globally as well. And I think we have to rely on one another to inform one another. And we have started a landscaping too. but we have to do much more on that. So we have some plans to do more work on that. But we do want to do a landscaping, and I think, as Alif said too, it has to be a kind of directed landscaping. We can't do everything, can't cover everything, because every day there's 10 things coming out. If you follow social media or something, so there's 10 things coming out on AI every day. So we'll have to help one another, I think, to do that landscaping, and that'll be an ongoing project as well. But then within that as well, I think we need to find something where we can make a contribution. And again, I think impact is the key word here. Eric.
Hi, Francis. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for such a wonderful call. I'm also happy to volunteer some time in line with Cyrus and John towards helping to make this a success. A couple points in conversation that have really stuck out to me is, I think, first and foremost, this group feels like a good mix of policy and technology, kind of a melding pot between the two. And I'm excited to see how and if we can work to operationalize technology in a way that actually uses some of the guidelines and recommendations from policy experts here. Part of what I wanted to ask is if there's interest in actually implementing some of the tooling that's being developed across a wide variety of spaces in more of an experimental format to see what assessment can look like given tools that both use AI and help to combat AI. Do you think that that's something that would fit into the larger mission of this group?
So I see Dorian next to me nodding yes right away. He doesn't even know I saw it, but Dorian is with the European Commission. He's a partner with Mihalis. Have to watch out for these guys. But yeah, and just to say, you know, Eric was in Denver recently. They did a hackathon there using some of their new tools, distributed PIDs, for example, and other things that they're doing there. And we asked them if they would sort of throw our problematic, let's say, into the mix of their hackathon, and they came out with something. So this is something we're going to launch with you, and Jonathan is also involved with this, and Cyrus is also involved with this now, and so we'll get there. Cyrus wanted to say something, and then we'll go to Jian, and then we'll go to Peel. Cyrus.
Yes, thank you so much. So first of all, hello, Jonathan. Hello, Eric. It's great to get to know you. Great to see that we are already 3 people working on this. So I just wanted to briefly comment on 1 or 2 of the on the previous speakers on the catching all of the resources which is already there, because the community is huge. There's a vast amount of approaches on tackling all of these different issues, and especially these smaller nuances of details that are in the different approaches. And I believe what's really crucial here is that we need the community. We need all of you who are already in the meeting helping us on an ongoing process and get together all of the knowledge that you have on all of the approaches that are out there, because all of you have knowledge and expertise with the different nuance to where you're coming from and what where your expertise is. And that helps us. Your judgment on what is already a good approach out there helps us. If you can forward us that information, if you can bring that to the work streams you want to engage with, that significantly helps the advancement of a working group. And we really need to make sure that over the whole process of the working group, over the 2 years, we have to make sure that this never stops, that constantly there's new input, and we as a community constantly work together as a network, forwarding each other knowledge and news about what's going on in the research field, because there's so much, not even a single person like Francis could ever overview that, although Francis is very close to doing so.
Great. Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you for the advertisement. Jean, please. Yeah.
Okay. It's me. Okay. To the first program, I think data research in AI, I think it should be considered at 2 levels: for humanity as a whole, and at the individual level. And international policy maybe solve the two levels problem. During its embodiment in practice, it's vital to find the balance among three relationships, I think, between science and human society as a whole, between individuals and human society as a whole, and the last is between different individuals. And ethical governance, I think, aims to assess and balance these three relationships. And the first level must be solved by international policy. That may be this meeting's very important significance. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jean. And I think it's very important what you say. I think one of the contexts that we tried to work in here too is with the UNESCO declaration, I think it is, or statement on open science, and the other one with their statement or declaration, I'm not sure anymore, on the ethics in AI and how those two things are related. And I've seen in Beijing too, the really good work that, for example, the Chinese Academy of Sciences is doing and so forth, and also your folks in Shenzhen and so forth. So we will connect there. Peel, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all of the comments that comes before me, they are so interesting. So there's so much I could comment on. I will just stick to commenting on the structure and encourage people, if there is anything in the draft for the working plan that you don't understand, that is unclear, because most likely there are, please comment on it such that we can clarify it, such that someone can clarify it. Eric, to your question about whether it's interesting to actually test toolkits, yes, absolutely, it's interesting. It's on the dreams it's on the objectives. It's what we would like to achieve. It's probably something most of us that only envision could be achieved in the end of the work package or the working group. However, if I view it from the outside, I don't know what you need. And I think this is something that, please don't answer today, write it down rather. But I think this comes with all of these work streams and work packages and objectives, is that the more you can specify how many people do you need to test the tool. Is it people, individual researchers you need, or is it institutions? What kind of institutions? Who is it tailored for? Such that we can direct people to the right work stream, because we are quite a lot of people in this call today. There are more people who has expressed interest in the working group. There's likely to become people who hasn't expressed interest yet, but are interested. So there's also a really, really heavy task in just coordinating it. So please take the time to comment on the work, on the draft for the working plan, both in terms of what content you would like to see in it, what you would like to have of work streams, comment under other, add some comments there. Please also comment on if there's something in the structure that is unclear. That is actually all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Peel. And I understand your request, because Peel has worked so hard on this work plan and on the organization of it. And I know she wants to get it right. I just put in the chat again a link to it. Comment on it. Don't be nice to Peel. We're never.
Don't be nice to any of us. We can take
yeah.
it, all of us. I think it is as much Francis and others' work as it is mine. I also want to really stress that you don't have to be from a member organization of CoARA to comment on this working plan. We very much hope that there are that people from non-member organizations who are interested in the topic join as well. So don't hold back. At some point, I will look at your comments and try to go through them, or others will. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Peel. Good. Jonathan, please. And then Dave.
I'm leaving a comment on the document right now. But I'm curious about the development of new work streams, because I see two work streams right now that are on there that would be interesting, one being the ecosystem analysis and the other being a work stream that collects people who are interested in experimenting with new technology, but not necessarily developing policy suggestions for new technologies, but just get people in a room, Peel, to answer the questions you were just having. Like, how can we best bring this new technology to a experimental level? So I guess the question there is, can we make new work streams, or do we have to figure out how to fit these things into the current work streams?
So if I may answer, Francis, because I gave it some thought on how we actually make it work. Yes, we can make new work streams, but please look at how the other work streams are formulated or how they are set up, and try to have the same structure and propose it, and then we can choose to expand with extra work streams at the monthly working group meetings. But try to make them try to use the same template as has been used for the free working streams that we are proposing, not because it's perfect, but because it allows us to compare, allows people to compare against different working streams, and also try to see, does the working streams that you wish to propose actually already fit into an existing working stream? Then please take it to that working stream, rather than we just end up with a too high number of work streams.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you so much. Dave, please.
Yeah, I had one question in terms of the work stream structure and the discussion a few minutes ago about potential tools. You know, and I think, you know, that there's a lot of, you know, interesting things that you could use both in, you know, employing AI or detecting use of AI. But has there been any thoughts, or where would be the appropriate place possibly for, you know, a system for communicating the use of AI? So, for example, if you've written a paper and you use generative AI, perhaps in the, you know, the literature review to a certain extent, but you also, you know, have committed to say that you've checked all of that, you know, is the way you can sort of tag that, you know, in LaTeX or something to express that very easily? Because I think that's, you know, one sense communicating to our peers, but actually it's really important to communicate to whichever AI system might then consume that paper to know that, you know, when is this content that's come from an AI, or has come from an AI and then mediated and checked, or is purely human? You know, is there interest in perhaps, you know, being able to signal that in our information flow? So that's both, you know, the way we annotate scientific papers, but also the data sets as well.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a really good question. I think we can see almost every day one or another publisher coming out with a comment about how you cite your use of AI, or how you can use it or not use it. Every university is doing this at the same time and so forth. So it's going to be very difficult for us to say, you know, what our role might be within this specific discussion here, but it is related, so we're going to have to look at it.
Dave, can I ask you to actually write it down, add it in a
I'll
comment, either
something.
that or email me or Francis, because it's a really interesting comment, and you raised some thoughts, at least with me, but I will not be able to remember all of these spinning if yeah.
I'll add
So
something to the rolling document.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, my chairman is hitting me with a big stick saying that it's time to move on. And this is the time we all know and love, and this is the time for voting. So I will go to Matthijs.
Yes, let me see if I can put on the polls. So we will have 3 voting steps now. So the first vote will be on the proposed co-chairs. So some of them you've met in several of the presentations, and they're all listed here in alphabetical order. And we would like to hear from you if you are in favor of this group of co-chairs running the CoARA ERIP. So I think the poll should be visible and open now. So please go ahead and vote. And please limit yourself only to the first question for now. We will proceed to the other ones afterwards. As I think the questions are being presented to people all at the same time, I would also open the second vote. And the second vote is if we all approve to have Francis Crawley as our ERIP coordinator. Francis has done an amazing amount of work, and we would really like to hear your views on if he can continue guiding us like this. And the last one being on myself. So it's actually a bit funny to launch a vote on yourself, but here we go. If you approve of me being the ERIP facilitator and the connection between the ERIP working group and the CoARA Boost project and the CoARA secretariat. So that's vote number 3. So please go ahead and put your votes in, and we will let Zoom do the counting for us.
Sorry, Matthias, where will we find the votes?
So the votes should have popped up, I think, is it part of the chat? So I cannot see how other people see it. So maybe someone else can tell me how it's visible.
It is no longer visible.
No.
Sorry.
Can you put it on again,
The
Matthias?
first question was the question was popping up in our screen.
Yeah.
And the second and the third question are not popping up in the screen.
Oh.
Scroll down.
There are no voting
Scroll down. Okay.
2 and 3.
Okay.
So we have about 50 people that have voted on question 2 and 3 as well.
Oh.
And we have about 90 people that voted on question 1.
All questions were in the same template. So when one submitted, that was for all the 3 questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should all have been in the same poll.
Apology, Matthias. The issue is you requested us to vote per question and submit, and that's what we did. That's why you have the highest number of votes for question 1.
You submitted already. Okay.
Yes, so we voted for question 1 and submit, and we waited for instruction for question 2 and 3 because that's the instruction we got from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'm relaunching the poll, but this will clear the existing results. So everyone will need to vote again for all 3 questions then. Here we go.
Okay.
So please vote on all the questions that you see here.
Okay, that worked.
So I see that people are still voting.
Excuse me, should we vote again? I submitted it once.
Yes, please vote again. If it popped up again, vote again. Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And for all 3 questions, please.
Okay.
So while you vote, I will give you some explanation so that, of course, it appears democratic, but it's hardly anything but democratic. So what we did was when we were organizing the working group, we reached out to a lot of people to organize it and to help write it. And at that time, we had a form, we did a poll among all the people. There's about 110 people, and we asked who would volunteer to be a co-chair. And these are the people that are listed here. There was one other person who was listed also as a co-chair, but she wasn't able to participate, and she's not participating today either. So we had these 8 people that volunteered, and then we also thought there should be a coordinator. And Matthias is from CoARA Boost, so he's assigned to the project through CoARA Boost. But the rules are, if you read the rules, for the CoARA working groups is that at the first meeting of the working group, the co-chairs need to be decided. That doesn't tell us how to do it or what to do or anything like this. So this is what we ended up proposing to you. And I think it's the best we could do, but I'm not going to try to argue that this is a fair system or a correct system or something like that. Thank you.
So I don't think there's any votes coming in anymore. Happy to say that all 3 votes have been unanimously or near unanimously been approved. So I think we can go ahead with the proposed structure. Thank you, everyone.
Good. Thank you to everyone. And we'll go now to Mara, who will close the meeting for us. Please, Mara.
Thank you, Francis. So, dear colleagues, dear all, I would like to express our gratitude for your active participation in our discussion. Your valuable contributions have improved our work, and we are truly happy with the dedication and enthusiasm each of you brings to this first CoARA ERIP meeting. So our collective intention remains clear. It's like a ERIP ethical mandate. So is to integrate research ethics and research integrity into digital policy methods and tools. As we cross the complex and challenged land of artificial intelligence, our commitment to seeking wisdom and sharing knowledge is very solid in ERIP. So some message from our discussion and about CoARA, where ERIP working group is focused on 3 main points: policy, methods and tools development. So CoARA ERIP aims to create a robust policies, effective methods and practical tools that can support the highest ethical standard in scientific activities related to data and AI application. These efforts will enhance the assessment of digital contribution to science and education to all society. The second, toolkit creation. So our working group is enthusiastic about developing an inclusive toolkit. This toolkit will serve as a practical guide, helping the implementation of best practice in research assessments involving data and AI. Its impact will extend outside the scientific community, positively influencing society as a whole, common good and justice. And the third one, we intend doing ethics for all to a real world with all its challenge and specificities, because everyone is important and everyone has a role to play. CoARA ERIP is committed to promoting ethical practices across the board to real life, from citizens' engagement to individual behavior, from society to scientific community. We recognize the need for responsible AI use and applications with transparency. Our goal is to create a new paradigm by fostering a culture of ethical governance and institutional change with impact on society. So our next steps, we will incorporate your valuable suggestions into our ongoing work. They were very, very good. Please stay informed by following our social media page for updates on our progress. And we also invite you to share any further thoughts and ideas with the group of co-chair, as Bill said. And if you want to get involved with the working group, please also contact us. Our upcoming CoARA ERIP working meeting, as Francis already said, on the even months, third Tuesdays from 9 to 10, Hood months, third Thursday from 4 to 5 p.m. Exceptionally, our first regular CoARA working group meeting will be on Wednesday, 17th April from 9 to 10. The work will be done in work stream that will be facilitated by the co-chairs and led by the work stream leaders themselves. Thank you once again for your commitment to these missions. Let us continue to shape the future of society and science, enhancing life through our actions. Ethics and AI should walk hand in hand, side by side. Thank you all. Thank you, Francis, for bringing us together. Thank you to all ERIP colleagues and all members who attend this meeting online and in person for this wonderful challenge that guide us to a better future in a new real world with a responsible AI. Let's make it happen. Thank you. And I pass the chair to Chris or Francis, I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maura. And we have 3 minutes, so Alif and Chris will use those 3 minutes to sign us off.
Thank you, Francis. So I think it's time to thank everybody for being here with us, for engaging the discussions very actively, and also contributing to this working group. Again, I would like to invite you all to this group, and special thanks to everyone again who made this meeting possible. And I think that's all for now. Thank you.
I agree very much that we should be happy and thankful to those who have presented something, those who have been input actively or not as a participant. I think it's very important. I think we had a nice launching meeting. I think it's now more important to start the real work after the words, let's say. And I think there are no better words to end this session, as Mara said. Let's make it happen. Yes, we can. Wir schaffen das. Have a nice day.